Welcome everyone. I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage in Southern California. We're holding our monthly tech meet. What we're going to talk about today is something that I don't usually talk about too much, and that's going to be an Arnage. Rolls-royce and Bentley went through some changes and transitions. These particular models came out in 1998. They're beautiful. They're a delight to drive. The only thing I really don't like about these models is the blind spot in the right rear. It's really, but that's my personal opinion. I'm going to show you where they keep the processor, the engine management computer. It's in this box here. It's called a cool box. Let me get the right tool. I'll open it up. The reason they call it a cool box is that computers get warm.
We do have a question. What have they done to resolve the head gasket issue?
I have no answer for that. There's a lot of debate on what causes it. They blamed it on the gasket manufacturer, I think. They blamed it on the turbo, too much pressure in the cylinder, which I think is because the turbo cars have a lower compression ratio. I've pulled some apart, and I think that they either didn't torque them correctly at the factory, which they will never admit to, or the cylinders on these engines, it's an aluminum block, which houses everything for the engine. And it has cast iron sleeves that go in that are pushed in with O-ring seals on them. And they're supposed to be machined to a certain height above the aluminum part. I don't think they did that right. But one other thing you might want to think about is that head gaskets on most cars blow because the car's overheated. Okay? So I think a lot of these cars overheated, and thermostats are a big cause on these things. And thermostats are hard to do on this. Well, not too bad on this. Fan clutch. Now you wonder what a fan clutch is. It's not another pedal on your car. What it is the fan, the cooling, big plastic cooling fan that runs off of the water pump on these cars. Let me get my light and show it to you. Here it is. So they call it a viscous coupling. So you've got your water pump housing right here. This is your fan, right? There's a certain amount of slippage. It's a viscous coupling. And they put those on to reduce the noise that the fan makes. So when the car is cool, it's going to be the fluid's going to be thick. So when you first start these cars and you have a good fan clutch, it sounds like an airplane. And then once it warms up a little bit, it starts slipping and it gets quieter. But what happens when it gets warm, let's say you're in stop and go traffic or you're in city traffic, you're not moving as much air through here. So the car is going to get warmer. That fan clutch is designed to re-engage that fan when it gets warmer. So then you'll get that airplane noise again, but you're also moving coolant or air across the radiator better. I just did on a Turbo R, 94 Turbo R. The guy lives in Las Vegas, and we did a thermostat on it because the engine was running too cool. So the emission systems were giving us problems with that. So we got it so it was running proper temperature. But when you drive it on the freeway, the temperature gauge would be in the bottom third, which is good, or 40% up. But then you get into traffic and start creeping up. And the longer you're in traffic, the more it would go up. As soon as you got on the highway and started moving, it would drop right back down. So in my mind, that immediately tells me that the radiator's good. Head gaskets got to be fine because head gaskets will just get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. So what we did is we put the fan clutch on it. There we go. Here's the fan clutch. This green fluid came from the bin it was in. But other than that, you can see there's all this kind of grease buildup. See that? This is a thermostatic spring, bimetal spring. So what this does is when it gets warmer, it's going to change the valving inside. Just see all this grease on here? That's your indicator that it's lost fluid. So the end of the story is I changed this and drove it home in traffic with the AC on and 90-degree weather, and it never got above that 40%, ever. So these are essential. These are really important in the cars. They get overlooked a lot. Let's see here. So anyways, we went back to the head gaskets. I think a lot of these cars have been overheated, and that's why the head gaskets go bad. Also, because when they get overheated, then they stretch the studs that hold the head on there, and then the thermostats will go bad. The thermostat on this car is over here. It's in that housing right there. You see that? This upper hose right here comes out. It comes out from the thermostat. You have to pull this up to get it out. There's a lot of things to break. Everything likes to break on these if you're not careful. So that's the reason I think that they, bottom line, is either they had some manufacturing problems with the deck heights, that's those cylinders, they weren't torqued right, or they've been overheated too many times. Thermostat, I think, is part of the maintenance schedule. I forget what it is on these, but they want you to change them, flush the cooling system. They want you to clean the matrix, is what they call it. And it's not the matrix that you remember from with Neo, but it's what it is. It's the radiator fin assembly. Okay, so what happens is dirt and debris goes in there, and you've got your condenser in front of it for the air conditioning system. So any garbage in front of there, if this is where all the air, most of the air comes in for the radiator, not all of it, but most of it. If you covered this up with a piece of paper, I guarantee you that engine's going to overheat. So think of it that way. Visualize garbage in your radiator. Visualize a thermostat, which is what it is. It's most of them have a wax. They call it a wax stat. There's a mechanism inside that has this ball of wax, and as it gets heated up, it expands and it moves and opens a passage for the water to come out of the engines. It's to come out of the engine. It's not to go in, it's to come out. So if you're not letting the hot water out of the engine, it's going to get hot. So the thermostats, you want to change those as recommended. And all this stuff, if you think about it, is not cheap to do. Doing those cabin filters, the pollen filters, and servicing it regularly and following the maintenance schedule on there is pricey. But last head gaskets I did on one of these were $12,000. The cylinder head, if you look down there, is way down here. Okay? That's the head down there, the exhaust manifold, spark plugs. All of this stuff on top has to come off. Or, factory recommends you drop it all out the bottom, whole engine and transmission. It's time consuming. Just like removing a dash. It's time consuming. Now the dash thing can be prevented by changing those filters. Okay, our last technique, we talked about maintenance. It's so important. But people go, well, I can get that. People will call, how much for an oil change? I love this one because I really rattle somebody's cage with it. How much for an oil change? So what do you mean? Do you want me to just change the oil? I can pull that lower panel because most of them still have it. I can drain it, put new oil in. That's an oil change. The service, that's something different. The service on these cars, you check all the lights. Let's see if we got those levelers. Let's see if we can find those. Oh, this. So this has a piece of plastic over it. So this is how you aim the headlights on this. Let's see this one. Oh, plastic on it too. Let me get it off. Sorry, folks. There you go. See the little indicator there with the lines? This is how you aim your headlight. I've even seen some cars with like little levels, like a bubble level for a house.